So many of you have been waiting for me to finally review Transformers 1. And I got to see this movie a week early for an early screening. I went down to Tampa with my dad and we saw, the movie, and it was actually really good. And then I decided to watch it a second time, with my entire family. And this way I can give you guys a proper review. And this is going to be a spoiler-free talk, so I won't spoil any details for you, or at least I'll try to make sure that I only cover what was seen in the trailers, all things considered. And I will tell you that there are 2 end credit scenes at the end of the movie. But of course I got a lot to talk about, so sit back, relax, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and let's transform and roll out. So if you're new here, I am RodimusPrimal. I do a lot of Transformers discussions, retrospectives, I've covered the news, and I do quite a few reviews here and there. And you can also find me on different social media platforms, as such as X and Facebook and Instagram. You can support the channel through channel memberships, or you can join me on Patreon. Let's get into the review. So this movie, I have to say, was very good. I would venture to say that this is the best Transformers movie since the original 1986 Transformers the movie. What I think that this movie does is it captures like the imagination of a whole new, and maybe you can say that maybe the 2007 movie did the same, but it did, for me, I think that this movie is like the right direction that Transformers needed to go theatrically, because a lot of folks are stepping back from the live action films. They didn't watch Rise of the Beasts, didn't perform as well as it could have, and Bumblebee was a slow burn because people were kind of burnt out after Age of Extinction and The Last Night. A lot of people know that those movies were really poor, but this movie here, I'm going to give it a solid rating here, is a solid 8, and which means it's very, very good. There are things that I can nitpick, and there are things that I think the movie could have improved upon, but I think the movie was very good. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it. I enjoyed it the second time I watched it, and the second time I was kind of looking for all of the things that I liked and disliked about it, because I knew where the story was going from that point, and I wanted to see how they got to where they got to. Now, if you're not familiar with what Transformers 1 was advertised to be, it is witness the origin of Optimus Prime and Megatron and the start of the Autobot and Decepticon conflict. So that, quite literally, knowing that going in, let you already know that there's going to be like a future point from where Transformers had already started. This is kind of the origin story. Now, this origin story is a new continuity. It's not setting itself within like a G1 universe or a movie universe or a aligned universe. No, it actually is an amalgamation of different continuities, and it takes a little bit in order to tell its narrative. And I think it does it very well. I liked the character development that we had with each of the characters, even to the point where I felt a friendship and bond between Orion Pax and D16. I enjoyed the action moments with Elita 1, and there are certain things, of course, that I could rip apart like in my nerdy review, because there's going to be certain things that like my daughter was asking a million questions on the way home about the movie, and it's just like they really, really enjoyed it, and they had such a fun time, and I liked where where the movie left off. It left me at a place where I want to see a Transformers 2. And like I said before, there are 2 end credit sequences. There is a scene in the middle of the credits that does a payoff for an earlier joke, and there is an end credit scene that kind of is like the final payoff to the movie, to let you know, like, okay, well, we have a lot to expect, in future movies, because this really does a good job of establishing to a brand new audience, which is exactly what was needed. For Transformers fans like myself, we've been around since the beginning. There are fans now in their 20s who grew up with like Armada or animated or the live action films, or, you know, like, let's say, I don't know, those who are just entering college were Transformers Prime fans, right? Like, so there's different generations of Transformers fans, but the thing is that they needed a new place to start that they can go forward and bring that next generation of 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds to the movie, to enjoy it, to get excited about Transformers, and of course, buy the toys. Like, let's face it, whether you're talking about the 1986 movie, whether you're talking about the 2007 movie, or whether you're talking about any Transformers cartoon thereafter or comic book, it is to sell toys. That is what Transformers is. And yes, this is going to sell merchandise. I think it's definitely going to sell merchandise. But from what I've been hearing, since today is Sunday, is that the box office report is on the lower side. And I think a lot of people looked at the movie with different eyes about like whether or not to see it, or the cost of, you know, seeing a movie in theaters and how expensive things are right now. Like, that probably is driving back why maybe the box office returns are not as high as they could be. But let's take some things into consideration. The storytelling, the narrative, it starts off kind of slow. They do a little bit of world building. They do a little bit of like setting things up to where things are. And then all of a sudden the movie goes on like a breakneck pace. The movie is only an hour and 45 minutes. So it's just like from beat to beat to beat to beat to beat. When I first watched the movie, my initial complaint was that there was a certain turn in one of the characters. And in that turn, I felt it was very sudden. I was like, this feels a little weird. This feels a little off. But when I watched it a second time, the seeds of it, I noticed, were there. There was like kind of something that like was subtly told, but you were picking up on things in the movie. They were leaving you breadcrumbs all the way up to this particular moment. And when it happens, you're just like, okay, the payoff is right there. And you can totally understand why this character went in that direction. You feel the friendship, you feel the bond, you feel the breakup, you feel all that kind of stuff. Because we know, right? We're Transformers fans. We know that Orion Pax and D16 are going to be Optimus Prime and Megatron. We know that B-127 is going to be Bumblebee. And I wish they had an Ariel to become Elita 1. Like that was like, would have been like the final payoff kind of thing. Like between all the characters, we know they become something. We know that they're supposed to be somebody in the future. And I think that is something that, you know, I think that with her character. Now, her character specifically, without actually spoiling anything, there was some moment in the movie where I felt like I did not like something that her character did. But at the same time, action-wise, she was great. All of the characters in general. And what I also really loved was how in the background of many shots, you see so many cameos and Easter eggs. My kids were pointing out characters. They were pointing out, oh, there's this one. Oh, there's this one. Oh, there's this one. Oh, there's that one. To me, that's exactly what a Transformers fan's kids should, should be doing when they see the movie, right? Like, my kids know they're Transformers. So, when my son picked out one of his favorites and my daughter picked out one of her favorites, like, it was just a great moment there. And seeing them enjoy the movie as they did and getting excited about certain things, also having them pick up on some predictability, which is not a bad thing. So the story itself is not like the most original story because, well, I mean, Transformers fans, we've been around for how long? We kind of know where the story begins and it ends, or at least where it's gonna go. So it's just a matter of how you get there and is it told well. And the movie does that in spades. The other thing I wanted to point out is the animation. The animation for this movie, for them being robots that can transform, that was amazing. Like, the animation itself was fantastic. There is, you'll notice when you watch the movie that all of the robots look like they are made from, made out of metal, and that their colors are like car paint. Like, if you've ever seen like lights on your car when you look outside and you notice like a certain glisten in your car's paint, that's what the robots looked like. The only detriment, and I know that this is going to be harsh for some, is that like there is a Pixar feeling to the robots' faces. All of their faces have this weird exaggeration, whether they're screaming, whether they're laughing, whether they're like just certain movements that feel like I'm watching a Pixar movie, not a Transformers movie. And that's only in the robots' faces. And I don't mind, like the, robotic faces being as they are, like, especially being a G1 fan from the way the robot faces looked then. But it was just kind of like, it was very noticeable, but that doesn't take away from the movie, nor does it take away from the animation. Like, I think the animation was superb. And I also liked how it almost, there were points where I didn't feel like I was watching an animated flick, It really was that, it was, the animation was that good. I can't really say, and I watched the movie now twice. I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, the score was really good, but there wasn't something about the score that stood out to me. And I think that just might be like me listening to it and trying to pick out like the music of the movie. I didn't really pick up on much. I kind of wish that there were certain musical cues from older Transformers tales. What I did pick up on was that there were some musical cues from Transformers Prime, and it's kind of noted that the musical composer was the same composer as Transformers Prime, so obviously some of those same beats are going to be there, but like I wish that I had heard some of the older tunes like mixed into a more orchestral feeling, like, you know what I mean? Like it just try to conglomerate the music a little bit more, like that would have been me, because again, this movie takes from so many different continuities. It takes from the, from G1, it takes from Aligned, it takes from, I would say the Covenant of Primus a little bit there too. Like it takes a little bit from all of it and kind of conglomerates it in a good way. And I'm not really ruining anything by telling you this. Like it's not actually a spoiler in me telling you all of these things. It really goes to show you that they did their homework. They really wanted to make a good origin story for the movie. And I have my nitpicks. I have a few things about the story that I wish that were done a little bit differently, and I understand why they did it. There have some things about some of the characters that I wish that are done a certain way, and unfortunately that they didn't. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the movie is bad. In fact, the movie is very, very good. In fact, a lot of G1 fans are going and seeing it and saying it's great. But more folks, I honestly think that there should be more folks going to see this movie. Again, I gave it a solid 8 because the certain story beats, and as well as the, not just my nitpicks. It's not just my nitpicks. There are actual little things that, I kind of felt could have been a little bit better, but I felt the movie was very good. And I definitely recommend going and seeing it in the theater, because it actually is a good experience in the theater, watching it with a bunch of folks. Now, I'm hearing reports, people are not seeing it. They're not haven't gone to watch it yet. But my theater was actually full. It was a very full theater, and they were very excited people. They didn't know that there was going to be an end credit scene, so I was trying to tell them, like, no, don't leave. You don't want to miss these end credit scenes. So I want to know what you guys think. Have you seen Transformers 1? Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Be sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe. Check out my other Transformers videos as well. I have much more coming down the pipeline, so stay tuned for all of that. And as always, guys, until next time, till all are one.